everybody. I hope that you're having a good night. Let me see who we have here. And sorry it got delayed. I was seeing other people were live and I wanted to wait for them to be over. And also there's literally like 2 weeks of 8-hour days back to back to back. So I'm trying to find the best clips to play. And even the daughter's testimony is 8 hours. So I'm trying to find the best parts of her testimony. Otherwise, we would literally be here for 10 days straight. It wouldn't even be a 12-hour live stream. It would be a 10-day or a 12-day live stream. So, but let me see who we have. We have Avery. Hi, Avery. Carly, Shay Benet, Amanda. I saw Crazy Crime Chick and Misfit. So hello. Edward. Hi. You said if this live stream starts in a few minutes and doesn't get delayed, I think I'm actually going to feel disappointed. Sounds great, Val. Can't wait for this one to kick off. And are you disappointed? It did start. Tia, hello. K-Braze, I think I said hi. I know I said hi in the chat. Let me see who else. Tia, Delana, hello. I think that's everyone. I'm not sure. If there's other people, I'm sorry. Oh, hello, Dave. Good to see you. Okay, so let me get some of this stuff started. And has anybody been following along? I know that Lex Luthor was, and I know MK is, but is anyone in chat following along with the trial? Hi, headphones. Better late than never, right, Misfit? Yes, Nora's grandma, you made it on time. Because I'm always late, so you're on time. Avery, have you been watching the case? All right, so let me get my screen ready. So first, I'm going to show the ex-girlfriend, and this is the one. Well, actually, I'm going to show a video first, and it talks about kind of just the whole case. Also, Aiden Fucci's sentencing is tomorrow. It's at 5:50 my time, so I'm trying to think if I should go live for that or not. I hate the mornings and 5:50. That's super early, but I don't know. Do you think he's actually going to get sentenced tomorrow, or do you think it's going to go on another day? If he's going to get sentenced tomorrow, then I do kind of want to stream it. Let me know if you can see my screen right now. Right now, it should be white, though. It's thinking. Sorry, my computer's being slow right now. Okay. All right. Come on, computer. And I don't know why I have ads again. I had premium. I don't know what happened. Hold on. One moment. I'm sorry. Technical issues. Chat among yourself while I try to fix this real quick. This is my fault for not having it ready right away. Okay, playing this now. Okay, so put a 1 if you should be able to see it in 1 moment. Are you able to see that? It says developing story. This is just kind of to get caught up on everything if anyone missed anything last week.
On trial in Kenosha for the death of Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. 41-year-old Zachariah Anderson is accused of killing Gutierrez in 2020 and then hiding his body. His remains were never found. CBS 58's Winnie Dorch breaks down today's opening statements.
Zachariah Anderson is facing a first-degree intentional homicide charge, including stalking and hiding a corpse. But his defense team says there's no evidence proving that Anderson was at Rosalio Gutierrez's home the night in question. Day one in the trial of 41-year-old Zachariah Anderson. He's accused of murdering Kenosha man Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. in May 2020.
The facts and the evidence in this case will show you that Mr. Anderson did not kill Mr. Gutierrez.
May 17, 2020 was the last day Gutierrez had contact with family and friends. The woman he was dating stopped by his apartment 2 days later for a welfare check. Through the sliding patio door, she saw an area rug missing and large amounts of blood on the floor and the furniture.
You'll see pictures and you will have difficulty finding a piece of furniture or a child's picture or a piece of child's artwork or a child's toy or a square foot of carpet that does not have blood. What this blood spatter tells him is that Rosalio Gutierrez is struck multiple times, several times in multiple locations.
The woman pointed police to her ex-boyfriend Anderson, saying he was stalking her and at one point called her out about her relationship with Gutierrez.
The defendant is obsessed. The defendant is jealous.
This narrative by the state about what this evidence is going to show you that Mr. Anderson is so jealous, the evidence doesn't support that.
The state arguing that evidence shows up in Anderson's minivan.
And she will testify that that DNA profile is a match. In other words, it is Rosalio Gutierrez.
She's an analyst, and that she can't say if something is something without testing it. And that she cannot tell you that that is absolutely blood.
And the trial will continue tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with witness testimony. In Kenosha, Winnie Dorch, CBS 58 News.
Misfit, oh my God, thank you so much for gifting memberships. I see that we got, let me see who the new members are. In Clumsy Clairvoyance, hello. All Things Serious, hello. Mama Bear, hello. Let me see who the new memberships were so I can welcome you. Crazy Mama, yay. Aaron, Red Eye, Trista, Holly, Misbehavin', Candace, Rhiannon. Congratulations. You all are true crime insomniacs. So yay, I'm so happy. All right. Thank you again, Misfit. That's really kind of you. So I'm going to show right now the text messages and the recordings between the ex-girlfriend and the boyfriend. And then I'm going to go on to what the daughter said on the stand. And there's kind of like a funny part between the defense attorney and the daughter. Like she's kind of snappy with her. So I just want to show that part too. Okay, so if you could just put a 1, you should be able to see my screen in just one moment. If you could put a 1 now, and then...
I can't go back and change the past. Anyway, I can't go back and change the past. I'll always be jealous. It's just, I never thought of myself as a jealous guy. And honestly, by and large, for most women, I'm not, but for you, I definitely am. For you, you're a version of beautiful I just can't let go. So happy I got 3 kids with you.
Ending out at 1:33:22. Now, Ms. Beecham, obviously you've heard those clips. Can you identify the female voice also on that recording?
That's me.
And during those conversations where there's some talk of his jealousy, are you giving him any hope that there's a future for you here?
No, I'm just reiterating that there's just really no going back.
And so on May 8th, best that you can remember, what was the plan regarding the kids being with the defendant for that night?
I believe I was going to be dropping them off at his place and then I had to, I think I had to take something over by my brother's and stop at his house too, and then I was going by Rosalio's.
And had you told the defendant the part of you going by Rosalio's that night?
No.
I'm approaching with what's been marked as State's Exhibit 207. Text messages between you and the defendant on his flip phone. Starting at roughly 6:41 p.m., do you say to him, you want me to drop the kids, drop off kids? And he goes with, not home, what time you need to be gone? You respond with, was gonna drop off the water lily by Charles, but it's not a big deal. Kids ate and are asking where you are, so I thought I'd offer. There's then a phone conversation between the two of you. And then at about 7:15, you indicate, gotta get the lily out of the pond and load it then to you. At 7:18, the defendant responds, you are super excited. He then says, not asking what's happening after that flower, but your frequency changed to less tired. You then respond, I'm less than excited about getting pond scum on me. We'll be there soon. And then you confirm, yep, you're still tired?
Yes.
Okay. Then a little further down, at 9:21 p.m., do you get a text message from the defendant, too much makeup and perfume for Charles? Sorry, who's Charles?
Charles is my brother.
Too much makeup and perfume for Charles, angry about pond water, had fancy jacket hiding in the back of your ride, premonitions don't make me psychic, calls me Zachariah when she feels good, and then an hour and 20 minutes later, the word denim shirt, Kenosha. Is that all accurate?
Yes.
And does he also send you what appears to be some sort of Do You Love Her, Jessie Reyes song title at 11:53?
No, I sent that to him.
So, Dennis or Kenosha. So at that point, had you made any mention to him or the kids that you were headed down to Kenosha?
No.
Now, ultimately, did you go to your brother's home and drop off that lily?
I did.
And then what?
All right, as we approach the top of the hour, we need to slip at a commercial break. We'll get you back to the courtroom coming up. Back from vacation, there's Judge Ashley Wilcott is here.
Hello, Ted Rowlands. Always great to see you and be on with you. We're going to bring more of this trial, talk about a motive. We're hearing from the ex-girlfriend. Let's hear all the details. We'll bring that to you right after this short break and get you back into the courtroom.
Was he able to use both hands while he was doing that?
Yeah, I saw him using his. You can watch this up with the defendant.
The back of your ride, premonitions don't make me psychic. That text message came in May 8th at 9:21 p.m. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
And would that be roughly 4 minutes after the map ping of Mr. Gutierrez's apartment as found on the defendant's laptop?
Yeah.
He's not really looking at her right now, but when it's his daughter, he looks like intently. He's staring at her. He doesn't even blink when his daughter's on the stand. It's like weird. But let me press play.
Now, did you tell the defendant that you had found his phone in your vehicle on that day?
I don't remember if it was that day, but I did inform him that I knew about it and that I found it.
And what was his response to you indicating you had found his phone in the place you had found it?
He said, oh, well, maybe I dropped it or something.
Not sure why it's getting quiet here.
You have a phone conversation where you confront him about that phone on May 10th at roughly 7:33 p.m.
I did confront him about the phone, about finding it, yes.
I'm going to show you what's marked as states 208. At roughly 10:43 p.m., you get a text from him, all dialed up to
The
go out,
timeline
and
is
you
right
go
there
to
on the
Kenosha
left.
because you found my phone, or you already had plans and just like to try to guilt me. And then he says, you treat me like I am so stupid. And you respond with, I had no plans to go there actually. After I found it, I called and asked if I could cruise out and why. I didn't even go inside because he had his kid. And then he goes with, a little bit later on, I doubt it. You stayed out all night. You could have just brought the phone back to my place right away if you found it at Charles. And if you found it and didn't want me to see where you were going, you would have shut the phone off before you left Charles's place. Seems to me you want to know enough. Seems to me you want me to know enough for it to leave me hurting, even though you claim you want privacy and space. And you respond with, I prefer you not know anything, but you are inserting yourself. Also, if I would have brought it back, it would have been ugly. You pissed me off. Is that all accurate?
Yes.
So after finding this phone that the defendant placed in your vehicle, he's accusing you of taunting him?
Yes.
So he's saying that she's taunting him, not the other way around.
Ultimately, do you eventually give the phone back to him?
After he insisted that he search my car for it, I then told him I had it and that I found it. So initially he had told me that he had dropped his phone. He had lost his phone. And I had said, I kind of said, oh, where did that happen? And I did know I had the phone at that point. And he'd said, well, I want to search your car for it. And I said, well, why would it be in my car? And he said, oh, well, maybe I dropped it in your car. And I was like, well, why would it be? I didn't find it in my car. Why would it be in my car? So he's like, I just want to come over and look. I just want to look. I need to find that phone. So I let him come over and he looked through the car and I was watching him as he was looking through the car, and he kind of searched around and he lifted up the car seat to look under it. And obviously the phone wasn't there because it already had it. And so then, he's pretty distraught and said, I need to find that phone. And I said, look, I found the phone and it was in the car. It was under the car seat. What's this about? Why are you doing this? And just confronted him about it. I told him that I would give it back to him, but that he needed to tell me what was going on and why he was doing this. I ultimately gave him back the phone, and he left. He got upset with me and then he left.
Now, at this point, as of May 8th of 2020, have you indicated to the defendant at all that you're interested in rekindling your relationship with him?
No.
I'm going to draw your attention to May 13th in the early morning hours, starting at 1:30 a.m. What would be texts from the Motorola G6 cell phone. States Exhibit 197. At 1:30 a.m., does he text you, hurts bad? And you say, I'm not trying to hurt you, I'm really not.
Yes.
And then he responds with, I know, trying to do what is right for you, believing it isn't me anymore. Is that all accurate?
Yes.
And that text comes in at 2:02 a.m.?
Yes.
And then are there a string of text messages that come in?
Sorry, counsel, was that 192 or 197?
197. 197.
Thank you.
Then at 2:24 a.m., do we then have text messages from him involving chasing that bump from a new someone every week and not having the kick in the stomach must be nice? 2:27 a.m. Us without jealousy is great though. 2:28 a.m. Him. I will always wish we would have done everything to fight that instead of give up. 2:41 a.m. You know that feeling you used to get when you would look at your phone and it had a message from me? 2:46 a.m. from him. Got all drowned out throwing hurtful words back and forth. 2:54 a.m. Got smothered to death in all the ugly messages that you held on to. 2:57 a.m. And it isn't wrong to make mistakes. It is wrong to fail to learn and improve. There is a happiness in that. 2:58, in making improvements and doing things better. 3 o'clock, I am just not yet seeing that I would want to try for anything better with anyone else, but the mother of my kids and the only real something I ever found in life. 3:02, for me, I always find special moments really wrote themselves on my heart. A heart that pounds out, 3:16 a.m. A heart that pounds out the agony every night, and it races.
All right, joining me in studio this hour, criminal defense attorneys Jack Rice, Josh Schiffer. So happy to have you both back. I know we've been in the hallway, we've been talking, we've been recording, and now we're watching. And really, this is the witness. You said that, Josh. This is the ex-girlfriend. This is the whole reason the state says that he committed this murder. And really, these text messages, and she's telling him in 2020, 4 days before the murder, I'm really not trying to hurt you, but it doesn't mean anything. What were you saying about that juxtaposition between love and hate?
You can hear it in the paragraph. You can hear it in one statement where he's saying how much he loves her, but how angry and how frustrated. You can hear the anger, and it's that fight between those two that makes such power. But I think the prosecutor's making a mistake, because what they really need to do is they need to have this woman, she is the victim in many ways here, to be able to say those texts, to read those out loud, and then emote what that means. A jury is going to feel that in their guts, and it's not going to happen if the prosecutor is laying him out like a forensic surgeon.
And that's what we've been talking about, trial skills, direct examination. You want that witness to tell the story.
This witness is really the person that can introduce the jury to the defendant the best of anyone.
Good point.
She was in the relationship with him. At the same time, she's the witness that can introduce the jury to the decedent. Talk about that person that no one but her knows. Bring the emotion into that court.
And make the jury fight for this dead man. And that's the only way it's going to happen, is if she convinces them that he's worthy of it. And when that happens, all of a sudden, they will go after the defendant if they can.
You've got to have a jury feel. If your jury's feeling, you're winning. And right now, my biggest issue is that the state could do more to elicit that real emotional connection.
On direct, she could be reading those texts. They could hear everything out of her mouth, the narrative and talking about. And as we were discussing, and I know we have to take a break, she indicated that she really thought this man that she was dating was true love. Was the one.
Brutal. And everybody knows what that feels like.
Oh, horrible. All right, we are going to have to squeeze in a break. When we come back, we're going to get you back into the trial. The ex-girlfriend, she is the one that really holds the key to this case, in my opinion. When we come back to court. Heatley, there he is on your screen, a live shot.
Mr. Anderson, regarding Mr. Gutierrez.
No.
I saw someone in chat, it might have been Tiffany, that said that they're not convinced that Gutierrez is even dead. That's something the defense actually brings up. I'm going to have to try and find that clip that there's no evidence that he's even dead. I mean, there is blood all over his apartment, so I would believe that he is, but they do bring that evidence. They do bring that up, saying that he could very well be alive. So I'm going to try and look for that. So thank you for bringing that up. I think it was Tiffany who brought that up, and Tiffany said, innocent until proven guilty seems to have been lost with everybody these days.
After you had received a text message from the defendant regarding what had just been spoken between Mr. Gutierrez and yourself, in the subsequent day, did you and Mr. Gutierrez have a discussion about that as well?
Yes.
Showing you State's Exhibit 220. Mr. Gutierrez says to you, bugs my house. Is that accurate?
No.
And then says,
sorry to keep pausing it, but Clumsy and Tiffany, I see that you guys have been watching it. If you are wanting to come up and discuss it or anything, I'd love to see what you guys have to say. I could put the StreamYard link in there. No pressure, but yeah, I would love to hear what you guys are saying since you've watched it from the beginning.
babe, I'm really getting annoyed with this man. Sorry, he's trying to make it hard for us. He wants you to be fed up enough to walk away from me. Is that all accurate?
Yes.
And why do you think that what made you feel that way regarding this whole situation?
I feel like he not only was stalking me, or he not only was harassing me, but he started doing things to him, and that was equally scary.
On May 14th, does the defendant send you further messages that you find to be, or I guess that were regarding meeting Junior?
So he was very condescending in his text messages, very passive aggressive all the time. So he would always be accusatory or try to say something mean or a dig at me. So there were several messages or several times that he would,
Misfit, I know that I believe the defense attorney, that he got thrown out of the courtroom one of the times. Both parents have gotten in trouble for trying to coach the daughter. Another mistrial almost happened. It's been crazy in the courthouse. So I'll play one of the clips that says like courtroom drama, and it shows the judge like yelling at them and stuff. But let me finish with this. I think it's only like 6 more minutes or something, and then I'll show some of the quote unquote courtroom drama.
take a stab at myself or him.
Approaching with State's 210.
Can I see the exhibit first?
Communications between your phone and the flip phone on May 14th at starting at roughly 4:15 p.m. First message there, highlighted in green. From the defendant, you want me to stop by and meet Junior tonight. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Had you ever indicated to him that you had any interest in him meeting Junior?
No, he would just randomly text me things like this.
Judge, the voices are too loud over here. I'm having trouble hearing.
I apologize. My mic's off. I apologize.
It is?
Yeah, my mic's off.
We're having the opposite problem now. Well, I can tell you that I heard it as did Mr. District Attorney. Okay.
And then you continue to have an argument regarding that phone that you found in your car. So, you admit to me you put it in my car to track me, and I give it to you and ask you to stop tracking me. He then says, you required I say that before you would give it back. I don't need a phone to know where you go. I can usually tell. You then said, I required nothing but the truth. You provided that of your own volition. And then he says you wouldn't agree to return the phone until said whatever you wanted to hear. Is that all accurate?
Yes.
And then a little bit later on, he tells you, and I called Cricket to find where the phone was. I could have swore it was in my van playing music while I cleaned. I searched and researched the van and then the house. I searched the house repeatedly the next day in front of the kids. And you say, keep telling your story so you believe it, because I don't. In fact, I knew you would say all of this. You are predictable and manipulative. And then ultimately, he says to you, so maybe I'm just saying you should stop and give it a second thought before you accuse me of stuff. Is that all accurate?
Yes.
And then after texting that at roughly 4:34 p.m. at 4:42 p.m., does he then come back with, so you're saying I can stop by and meet your someone later?
Yes.
Was there any interaction during these messages that went from him asking if you wanted him to meet Junior to you saying, yes, you should come over and meet Junior that night?
No, never.
Sorry to keep pausing it, but Max Smith keeps bringing up really good points. So he said there's no evidence of Zach traveling to Kenosha the night of the murder. Not one video sees him. How is that possible in this day and age? So, I mean, that is true with all the traffic cams, the like CCTV footage, everything is crazy that they weren't able to catch any video footage. Just like in the Idaho murders, they did get the white car of Brian Koberger's on camera, and there's nothing and they got his phone pinging, there's nothing showing like evidence wise of him being there. All they're saying is that he wasn't picking up his phone during those hours, but they brought someone up to show his phone call logs within like the past months before that, and there were many times before that where he'd go gaps of time not answering the phone. So it wasn't unusual for him to go 3 or 4 hours not picking up phones. And I'm someone like that too. I'll not respond to messages for like 3-4 hours. I'm sure Shay can attest to that. So, but let me press play. But Max, you're making like so many great points. You know all about this. And what you said about, did the thug go to the wrong address? That is a really good point. And also you mentioned someone that I think you said Mike maybe was the name. I didn't even know about that. So I would love to hear, I'm going to have to look into that. If you want to come up at all and talk about it, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Avery, I don't know if you've been watching it. I know Tiffany said you're not able to come up. But yeah, Shay said Val likes to ghost. I'm sorry. I know I'm bad.
Fast forward to May 16th of 2020. What was the plan in regards to the children that night with the defendant?
That night, the 16th, Zach had the kids.
And were they ultimately going to be spending the night at his place that night?
Yes.
And had you been in contact with Mr. Gutierrez that day, just like you normally were every day?
Yes, I had the kids during the day. We hung out all day, and then Zach had plans with the kids for the next day, so I exchanged them that night. So Mr. Gutierrez had his kids, and so there wasn't really any set plans for us that day.
I'm going to approach with State's Exhibit 221. Text messages between you and Mr. Gutierrez on the 16th, starting at roughly 2:28 p.m. So does he tell you we are at Dick's buying his son some cleats and slides for baseball?
Yes.
I'm going to object as far as the relevance of this message string.
It goes into the plan that they make later that night. So,
Go ahead.
and then he says $226 later, accurate?
Yes.
You then respond, whoa, those are some expensive slides, LOL. And he tells you they turned into bats and cleats.
Almost 3 years ago, that is when this happened. Rosalia Gutierrez is the one who was murdered allegedly by this defendant, Zachariah Anderson. Tell us what you think. We've been watching him there on the screen as the ex-girlfriend has been testifying. Have you read anything into his body language? Let us know what your thoughts are when we come back. We'll get you back inside the courtroom. We talk about this testimony and the girlfriend's testimony and his behaviors, because you were talking a little bit, Jack, about what you might think he is like as a person facing these allegations.
Listen to this part: controlling narcissism. The idea that he would leave his phone in her car, and then he's angry because she didn't drive it back to his house immediately. And so therefore he had to track his phone and where she was going, and was angry because he learned about where she went. It's her fault because of what he did. That is literally the definition of what narcissism is. It's everybody else's fault for what it is that you've done. A prosecutor, if they're smart, can take these little tiny kernels at closing and say, you want to talk about what this is really about? It's about this and this and this, and that's what leads to a man who's capable of murdering somebody.
And is it abuse? Tell me, Josh, your thoughts.
Is it abuse to be in a narcissistic relationship? Yeah, absolutely. There's a codependency issue, that there's stimulus and response. And in an abuse relationship, very often the victim of the abuse is actually drawn into abusive relationships because that's the stimulus that they're looking for.
Shay, he was stalking her because he has children with her. He has 2 twins with her and the daughter, and so he was like obsessed with her. They broke up. He wanted to get back together with her, but it showed before that, like, there was times where she wanted to rekindle the relationship. They got back together multiple times. They were broken up together. She wanted to get back together previously, but then she was with Rosalia Gutierrez, and he still wanted to get back together with her, and she decided she was completely done with him. So he decided he wasn't okay with that. He wanted to be in control, know what was going on all the time. So he put those tracking devices in there, and he wanted to know, like, what was going on, to be able to know all about Rosalia Gutierrez, like to know where they were going, just all the information about him when they with the kids, like what the conversation was. It was all about control mostly. And I think that's like one of the things with the narcissist, where they want to be in control. But let me press play.
Subconsciously and psychologically, most likely due to how they were raised or some other issue from earlier in their life, they're attracted to some of these abusive and manipulative individuals.
But they may not even realize just how manipulated they've become.
And it's not a blame issue. It's a fact that we then find people trapped in these situations when they start spinning out of control. And it's those thousands of little details, those little nuggets that you can create the totality of circumstances argument that really fully illustrates the narcissism and control.
Especially in the power. It's that little tiny nugget that you just said. That's where you can say to a jury, contemplate this. Now let's multiply it by 1,000.
And that is the whole reason for a closing argument where you take that and bring it together and use your persuasive powers to say, jury, this is why my side is the right side, why I've told the right story.
And we've shown you, juror, why you should vote for my party.
And the evidence shows it. I will say this, the one thing in watching this that's hard is we're watching a victim try to rationalize with someone who is putting a phone in her car in order to track her. And she's being very rational, but the reality is you really can't use rationale against someone with those behaviors.
And that's where I'd love some of the emotion coming in, because she's taking that and it's appearing very kind of normal. No, that's not normal. Is that normal?
And I also bet that there's viewers right now watching this going, boy, this seems familiar.
Yeah.
They're probably watching this themselves going, oh my gosh, this is a reflection of my life.
We don't like.
The ways we've behaved or things that we've done that we didn't even realize we were doing.
Right, absolutely. All right, wait, we're going to have to get back into court, but you're both staying with us. When we go back into court, the ex-girlfriend, Sadie Beecham, is now on the stand. The prosecutor is going over the text messages the very day before the alleged murder.
Virus, it is? Is that accurate?
Yes.
Do you remember reading that day?
Yes.
Now, ultimately, later on that evening, at roughly 8:33 p.m., you get a text from him that just says, I just dropped off his daughter, going over to Mike's for a little bit. And you say, okay, cool. Well, then maybe text me or ring me when you leave there or something. And then he sends okay at 8:36 p.m. on the 17th. Is that accurate?
Yes.
After that text message of okay at 8:36 p.m. on the 17th, do you ever hear from Mr. Gutierrez again?
No.
I'm not convinced either, Shay, and they definitely have not proven it. Like, he may be guilty, but the state has not proven it to me.
Is there a water for
The video got quiet. I didn't press mute or anything. It's just quiet on its own.
All right, right now we have no audio in the courtroom, so I want to bring you back in, Josh and Jack, and I will be cutting you off if we can go back into court. But Josh, what are you thinking as you're watching this?
They're used to being cut off, and definitely my big concern that I'm talking with Jack about and you is this is when you need to get that emotional resonance. This is when you've got to turn it up and bring in the emotion and the fear. That's what's going to engage and activate your jury. And activating that jury doesn't happen with this very slow and methodical, because it doesn't seem like they've connected.
Yeah. All right. Hold your thoughts, Jack. We're going to go back in. We are learning that they were bringing up an exhibit form of text messages from May 17th, the day of the murder.
Yes.
During you on most average days, there's a lot of different text messages exchanged between you and the defendant?
Yes.
Okay, I'm approaching with State's Exhibit 211. You have May 17th at 5:13 p.m. where you simply send to him here.
Yes.
What was that in reference to, if you recall?
That I was at his house.
To pick up the children?
To pick up the kids, yes.
And then is there another text to or from the defendant's flip phone to you until May 18th at 8:34 p.m.?
Yeah, there's no communication there.
And was that unusual given the amount of communication?
I'm gonna object. Speculative.
World.
Is that unusual that on days when usually he's texting multiple times that there's no communication from May 17th at 5:13 p.m. until you reach out to him on May 18th at 8:30 p.m.?
Yes. That was unusual.
Great, so let me get the next thing to present. How's everybody doing in chat? Let me see. Is she involved or just here to explain their past relationship? So there is a part where, I mean, I could show that too, where the prosecution gets mad at the defense and they're saying that they're basically saying that Sadie is involved in it. That is a super heated moment. It is interesting because they are making a lot of good facts about Sadie possibly, like, it seems like where she could be. I'm not saying she's involved, but the things that they're bringing up, the prosecution's like, you're trying to make it look like she's involved. I might play that video because it is interesting to watch. So let me just grab that. There's so many different ones. It's always hard to choose, especially because it's like 8 hours of 2 weeks. So a day, it's so much. Just 1 minute. Sorry.
Where were they when you and your back in the time period of April 24th of 2020, were you asked by anyone to spy on anyone else during that time period? Were you asked by anyone to spy on anybody else?
Yes.
Who asked you to spy on someone?
My dad.
And who did your dad ask you to spy on?
My mom.
And did you follow through on that in some ways?
Correct.
And so what sort of ways did you spy on your mom because your dad had requested it? Give me examples of ways you spied on her.
I was given a G6 Moto for my phone, and I was instructed to record every single time that my mother would get upset.
Who instructed you to do that?
My father.
And when you say record, you were using the phone to do that?
Correct.
And then after you made those recordings, did you provide them to anyone?
What do you mean?
Did you give them to anyone somehow?
Like, my mother found my phone and took it, if that's what you mean.
Did you transfer them to anyone or hand them over to anybody as well?
Well, when she found it, I had to give her my phone. But other than that, no.
Okay. So if the defendant's computer has some recordings that it appears you have made, do you know how he has those in terms of recordings of you and you recording using a recording device?
I'm going to object as far as speculation.
I don't know that he's actually inviting your speculation. It is a question with a hypothesis that either will develop or not. So go ahead.
Hi, NorCal Jim.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So the question was, if you know, how would those end up on your dad's computer? How did that happen?
Well, it was my dad's phone originally. So, of course, he would eventually.
Again, this calls for speculation, Judge.
Your first effort was fine. This one's not so good.
So her answer is he got the phone back. So okay. So I don't have any further questions about that.
Are you testifying?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to ask that be struck.
The objection to your second question is sustained, and disregard the statement that the district attorney made to follow that. So go ahead.
Is the phone that you indicated you used to record, who do you know then had possession of it? Just the people you know then had possession of it after you used it to record?
My dad and my mom.
Okay. And I want to turn your attention now specifically to April 24th, 2020. So that would be the day and evening before your birthday, correct?
Correct.
Whose home did you stay over on that night?
My father's.
And do you remember what city he had a place in that you were staying at? What city?
Mequon.
And who else stayed there, if you recall?
Just me and my little brothers.
And how old were your little brothers at that time?
4.
And so it was you, your little brothers. Were there any adults at the home on that evening?
Evening? Yes.
Okay. Now what I'm asking is, when you were over there visiting on April 24th, other than the children you mentioned, were there any adults there with you?
Yeah, my dad.
Okay. And at some point in the evening hours of April 24th, going into the early morning hours of April 25th, did you leave the Mequon residence of your
Object
dad?
as far as leading.
Sustained.
Where, if anywhere, did you go other than the Mequon house in the hours of April 24th in the evening through the morning of April 25th?
My mom's house.
And how did you get there?
My dad drove me.
And other than you and your dad, who else went?
Nobody.
Okay. So you indicated that your 4-year-old brothers were on this visit. Where were they when you and your dad went to this other location?
Upstairs at the Mequon house sleeping.
They remained there?
Yes.
Okay. And where did your dad and you go?
To my mom's house.
And where was your mom living at the time?
In Germantown.
And about how far a drive was that, if you know?
15, 20 minutes, not too bad.
Okay. And about what time did you leave the house? What's your estimate on when you left the house?
I'm not sure exactly, but I remember waking up around maybe 12:53, 12:57, somewhere in there.
In the AM, the early morning hours?
Correct.
Okay. And so when you went at that time, what do you remember happening next?
We arrived at the house and we pulled into the parking, our driveway, of course. And he said to me, "No, we're not going to park here." And he backed out. And then he went into the bar parking lot, and there's ones that are in the back and they're closest to the house. And he gets out.
When you say he, who do you mean?
Zachariah Anderson.
Then what happened?
He jumps onto the porch and looks through my mom's window with a camera.
Let me stop you. When you said jumps onto the porch, of what location?
My mom's.
And when you said he, who did you mean jumped on the porch?
Zachariah Anderson.
Then what happened?
And then he is looking through the window, recording with not a camera, like a phone recorder, but a handheld recorder.
Okay. Then what happened next?
Comes down eventually after a little bit, puts another phone into the air conditioner.
Okay, stop. Let me stop you. The air conditioner is located where?
On the side of the house that I was on.
Okay, why would, so the air conditioner is connected to what room of the house, if you know?
My mom's room.
Okay. And when you say puts it in the air conditioner, tell me more what you mean by that.
There was like an opening. So coming out from looking on the outside of the house, there was the air conditioner coming out and there was like a space around it. And it had insulation in there, like cushioning insulation, and the phone was put back far enough to see if there could be a recording of something.
And could you see that from where you were located?
Yes.
Okay. And where were you located when that was happening? When your dad was placing a phone recording device in the ventilation?
Okay, sorry about that. I was saying on this side here, I think you can see my mouse. I'm pretty sure this is Zachariah's family, and there is a man that's in the courthouse. He's not there right now. I believe that it's his dad because he does look like him, but older. I know that this is Rosalio's family and then the ex-girlfriend as well, Sadie. But this is his mother right here. I think you can see my mouse. But yeah, I do think that this is his family. I'm not positive. So, but yeah, I'll show you the guy that looks like he's Zachariah's dad. I believe he's in the next video.
There.
I was sitting in the car.
Then what happened next?
And then he came to the car and asked me if I would like to see it. And I said, yeah.
Okay. Who's he?
My dad.
Okay. I'm going to refer to that individual as the defendant just for purposes of our discussion.
Sure.
So, okay. So when the defendant came and back to the car, what happened next?
I said, sure.
Okay.
And I went up with him and we went to the window. We walked around the balcony this time and we went up the stairs and we went to the window. And he looks at me and he says, before you do anything, go like this with your shirt to make sure that you don't get the breath marks on the window.
So I'd just like to have the record reflect that the witness, Your Honor, pulled their shirt up, blocking their ability to sort of breathe on objects, covering their nose and mouth.
Yes.
Okay. So then after you were advised of that by the defendant, what's the next thing that happened?
I saw I don't know how to refer to him.
Whatever you're comfortable.
Mr. Gutierrez, I guess.
Okay.
And I saw him sitting on the couch with my mother coming out of the bathroom. And I didn't think that it was gonna be this hard. They were listening to music and laying there together.
And doing what together?
Just laying there on the couch.
Okay. So what room are you looking into from where your vantage point is?
The living room. There was a space in between the curtains.
Okay. And what window of your mom's place are you looking through to be able to see into the living room?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you're on the outside, correct?
Correct.
So which window? Is it a window that goes into the kitchen? Is it a window that looks directly in the living room? So what?
It's a window that looks directly in the living room.
Okay. And where is the defendant during that period of time?
Standing next to me. Okay.
And after you look in and see that, what is the next thing that happens?
We leave.
What? You leave?
We got back in the car and we were on our way out, and he didn't grab the voice recorder at first until he pulled out and pulled onto the road, and he stopped He stopped right at the second entryway to our driveway and got out, took his sandals off, and went to the house.
So let me stop you. What footwear then was your?
He didn't have shoes on.
Okay, cool. Keep going.
He went into Mr. Gutierrez's car and took his registration and took a picture of his license plate.
Okay.
And
I'm sorry, you saw that from where you were in the car?
yes, I personally saw that.
Then what happened?
And I saw him ring the doorbell.
I'm curious, what do you all think is going through his head? Because, like, to me, he looks like dumbfounded. Like, he just, right there where I paused it, like, he's not blinking. He's just staring at her intensely. I'm just curious what all of you think that, like, he's thinking right now. Like, do you think that he feels horrible that his daughter's on the stand? Do you think that he's angry that she's testifying against him? Because she's testifying for the state. Again, like, so her testimony could get him in jail. Like, it could be her testimony that seals it. So what do you think, like, that's going through his head right now?
And then run back to the car and drive away.
Whose doorbell did he ring?
My mother's, but he also had grabbed the phone while he was somewhere in the time period from when he rang the doorbell, the phone was grabbed.
And which phone are you referring to now?
I'm the one that was placed in the air conditioner.
Okay. So after the defendant goes to Mr. Gutierrez's truck, takes a picture and takes an item out of the vehicle or takes registration, grabs back the phone, and he rings the doorbell, what does the defendant do next after he does those three things?
Comes back to the car with the phone.
All right. And then what happens?
Plays the phone.
Okay.
Of course, plays a recording on our way home.
Okay. And what, if anything, can you say about what you could hear on that phone recording?
Nothing.
Okay. So where do you guys go next?
Back to my dad's house.
Okay. When you get back, what happens next?
I walk in. He tells me to get some sleep. I then was sitting downstairs and thinking about what just happened, because I was a little like, did I really just see what I saw, what I just witnessed? And it was fine after that, I guess. And
so let me ask you, what did the defendant do next that you saw? So after you guys got home, what happened next, if anything?
he dropped me off and then he left again.
Okay. And you were not with him at that time?
No, I don't remember what time that was. We got back around 3 though.
Did he tell you what he was going to do next before he left?
No.
Okay. So now, if I understand you, by now it's 3 a.m. on your actual 12th birthday.
Yes.
Okay.
So now it's her birthday. This is her birthday adventure, what they're going to do.
Can you indicate what, if any, plan was ever suggested to you to try to get your mom in trouble?
Yes.
What plan was suggested?
The plan was for, now this might be a little confusing. The plan was for my dad to drive me and my little brothers to the house, and then.
To whose house?
My mom's house.
Okay.
And then he would put the boys to bed, and he would drive all the way back to his house, call the cops from there, and say, my daughter just called me, and I would have to call my mom, but not make it ring. So I had to call her, but the phone wouldn't be able to ring. It just had to ring on my phone to prove that that her phone was called. Only on my end though. So it would show that I had called her several times and she didn't answer.
So
that's the look.
Who was supposed to do that? Who was supposed to do that part of the plan? Okay, and is this on a day that you wouldn't have been at your mom's house?
No, this would have been a day where I would have been at my dad's house, and my mom would be out.
Okay.
And the plan was basically to call the cops and say how my mom abandoned us.
All right.
And how I had to call my dad.
Okay. And who suggested this plan?
My dad.
And when he suggested this, what age were you?
10, 11.
And so I want to take you back to a time period before that April 24th birthday time period and ask, was there a time in the month of March of 2020 when your mom went on vacation without you?
Yes.
And during the first nights that your mom went on vacation, where were you going to stay? What was the plan on where you were staying?
I would stay at home at the house with my aunt.
Okay, and who was taking care of you?
My aunt.
And who's that?
Becky.
Becky? Okay. And do you know, is Becky actually related to you or just a close friend of your mom's?
No, she's like my mom's sister though. So she's not really my aunt, but.
But you call her that?
Yeah.
Okay. So she was staying overnight with you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. And during the time period that Becky was staying with you guys overnight in your mom's house, did something happen that caused you to be either disturbed or alarmed on a particular time?
Yes.
So if you can you tell me about what time of day? What's your best estimate on what time of day that happened?
It was pretty late at night.
Sorry, I wanted to read what Max said. So he said, the male friend of Sadie, whom she talked to on Facebook days before the murder, told Sadie he would take care of her issues. Those were her new boyfriend was cheating on her and Zach stalking her. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff around Sadie and they didn't look like there were so many different things that they didn't look at. Like she said, they found their character and they just only eagle-eyed just on him. They didn't look at any other facts in the case. They didn't look at any other tips. They just looked at him, and she brings that up. I can't wait for the defense because I believe the prosecution rests their case today. I'm pretty sure that they closed their case today and that now the defense is going to talk to all the witnesses. So that'll be a lot more interesting to me to hear everything the defense says. But here, let me finish playing.
Night. I mean, it was more like early morning. It was really, really, really early in the morning.
Okay. So can you give me an estimate on what time?
Maybe between 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
Somewhere.
And if you know, was it a school night?
Yeah.
Okay. And were your 4-year-old brothers also at the residence?
Yes.
Okay. So what happened at some time between 2 and 4 in the morning at your residence that caused you to be disturbed? And I'm only asking about what you personally had happen.
Okay. I remember kind of waking up to footsteps up the stairs.
Okay.
And then I kind of drifted back off into a sleep. And then Dad was standing at the side of my bed and he was like, "Get up for school, let's go." And I was like, "What?" And I was really confused. And then I was like, "Okay." Because at that time, what am I going to do? I mean, my parents telling me to get ready at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I don't really know what the point of it was, but he had made breakfast.
So what time did you eat breakfast on this particular day in March of 2020?
I don't know. We had French toast and eggs, and the time wasn't very clear.
Was it before 4:30 in the morning?
Most definitely.
Okay, and you ate? Who else ate?
My 2 little brothers.
And how did they happen to get up and have breakfast at that time on a school day?
My dad came into our rooms and woke us all up.
Had you been expecting your dad in any way, shape, or form to arrive?
No.
Okay, so let me ask you, if we get to a point where you on a Sunday go to the family tree farm, do you remember that?
A little, yeah.
Okay, and what vehicle got you to the family tree farm?
The van.
And is this a regular vehicle you have that you know of, that you are familiar with?
Yeah.
So who usually operates that van?
The defendant.
Okay, and if you saw a picture of that van, you'd recognize it, you believe? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to show you a picture up on the screen in just a second.
She called her dad the defendant.
And this is State's Exhibit 1, number 254. And I'm just asking if you think you recognize this vehicle.
Yes.
Okay, whose vehicle is that?
The defendant's.
Is that the van you were mentioning?
Yes.
And so who went in that van to the tree farm, if you remember? Again, I'm talking about on a Sunday, May 17th.
Me, the defendant, and my
I'm
two
going
brothers.
to object that you just said Sunday, May 17th.
I apologize. What?
I was saying that's so funny that you say Walmart version of Leonardo DiCaprio, because they bring up Walmart a lot of times in this case. Like a lot of his clothes and stuff are from Walmart, like his flip-flops and his jeans and stuff, like his shirts. So I think even his underwear, they literally show his underwear on the stand. And people in the like chat like make jokes about how the defense attorney took the underwear home with her. Like they make so much.
So on that weekend,
okay,
apologize. On that weekend,
There's an objection.
yeah, I'm altering the question. So
Well, what weekend are you talking about?
What? I was about to say.
Specify the weekend.
Yep. On the weekend of May 16th and May 17th, okay, of 2020, you went to the tree farm, correct?
Correct.
And you went in that van?
Correct.
Okay. Who drove it?
The defendant.
And if you recall, what were the state of the seats in the van?
There were 2 middle seats, 3 back seats, and 2 front seats.
Okay. And do you remember which seats were in on this particular weekend?
Yeah.
You remember? So if you remember, which ones?
Well, not the middle ones, just the back ones and the front ones.
Okay. And who on the trip to the tree farm, where did you come from? So what residence did you come from to drive to the tree farm?
My dad's house.
Okay. And so where were the twins in that van?
The back seats.
And where were you?
In the front seat.
Okay. And do you remember any items that your father, that the defendant also put in the van?
Just a chainsaw.
Okay. And so was that in the van as well?
When?
When you went there?
Yes.
Okay. So about, if you know, approximately how long were you at the tree farm? About?
4 hours.
Okay. And during the time you were there, did you, what if anything did the defendant borrow from anybody else?
I'm going to object as far as foundation. He just asked that, what did Mr. Anderson borrow?
What, if anything, he said, did Mr. Anderson borrow?
Correct. And so I'm objecting as far as foundation for that question. hasn't been established what she was doing at the tree farm, who she was with, what she had the opportunity to observe. That's just the objection.
So what, if anything, did the defendant borrow while at the tree farm that you were present for?
Just my grandfather's boots.
Okay. Are those work boots?
Yes.
Okay. And ultimately, where were those work boots when you guys left the tree farm?
I don't remember.
Okay. Did you tell law enforcement at some point that the boots were brought home with you guys in the van?
Most definitely.
Okay. So when you came home from the tree farm, what transportation did you use to get home?
The van.
And who drove?
My dad.
And was there any difference in who was seated where?
No.
So on that weekend of the 16th and 17th, did you have an opportunity to see how the rug was in the back of this van?
Yes.
Carpeting. Okay. So I'm going to show you a picture. And this is picture what?
States Exhibit 1, 260.
So this is Exhibit 1, 260. Do you notice that there's something cut out in the van in this picture?
Yes.
And was that area cut out when you and your little brothers went to the tree farm on the weekend of May 16th and May 17th of 2020?
No.
Can I show a picture with the stains? I'm going to show you another picture. When you were in this van on the weekend of May 16th and May 17th, what, if any, smell of bleach did you smell in that van?
No, and those stains were not there either.
So you see some stains on this picture, and again, this is Exhibit?
States Exhibit 1, 257.
So those stains were not on the van?
No.
When did you last see the van where you looked inside it? Was it on the Saturday or the Sunday, if you remember?
No.
Okay. Just on that weekend?
Yeah.
Okay. And the last time you saw that van, in terms of the interior of the van, was when you came back from the tree farm, or did you guys go elsewhere after that, if you remember?
No, we just stayed at the house and waited for Mom to pick us up.
Now, so on that Sunday, did the defendant drop you off at your mom's, or did your mom come and pick you up, if you know?
No, my mom came and picked me up.
And when your mom came and picked you up, do you recall what the defendant was wearing in terms of outerwear? Do you remember that?
Yes.
So we're going to show you States Exhibit 42. So first, can you first tell us what you remember that he was wearing? Please, before you show it.
He was wearing a white tee with jeans, sandals, his usual, and a blue flannel.
Okay. So I'm now going to show you what's been marked as, one more time, States Exhibit 42. Can you make that a little smaller? Thank you. Do you recognize what that's a picture of in the context of this case?
Yes.
What is that?
My dad.
Okay. And in terms of what the person is wearing, what the defendant's wearing, is that familiar to you based on what you've said today?
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
His blue flannel jacket.
Okay. Is that the same blue flannel that you're saying that he was wearing?
I saw him that day, yes.
Okay.
No, but I didn't even like either, and I like.
During this time period, when you were at the tree farm, in that time period of mid-May of 2020, what, if anything, can you say about whether your father was discussing a boyfriend of your mom's?
Yes.
Okay, so when you saw the defendant, how often during that time period? So let's start from like March of 2020 until this tree farm visit. How often when you saw him would he discuss with you your mom's boyfriend or this person that might be your mom's boyfriend? How often?
Pretty frequently.
And what did he call this new person in your mom's life? Did he have names that he called him or not?
Yes, there were, but it would be disrespectful for me to say them in this courtroom in front of his mother.
They still
So I'm asking that you say the names. So what, if any, names do you recall specifically? Thank you for telling us that. But did he say, if he did he explain to you why he was calling Rosalío Gutierrez or this person, the new boyfriend of your mom's, Booger?
Well, of course, the first one is because of,
I'm asking about Booger.
well, when he looked through the window at my mom's house on the morning of my birthday, he saw him apparently pick his nose and wipe it on my mother's couch. And so it was a thing for a while that we wouldn't sit on the couch. It was really just, it was a very odd situation, I guess. I don't know how to explain it.
And after that time, was how often was the name Booger? Did it come from your from the defendant's mouth talking to you?
It was used in a joking manner if he was joking around about it, but other than that, it wasn't very used.
Okay. And did your what, if anything else, did you hear about your about whether the defendant planned on?
I'm going to object to leading.
Well,
I have to get her there somehow, Judge. I'm not, again, I'm not.
Leading is not among the permitted methods ordinarily, except in exceptional circumstances. He hadn't finished his question, though, so I don't know where he's going. So you can finish your question.
What, if anything else, did the defendant say to you?
And we are going to let him finish that question on the other side of this break that we do have to squeeze in, but don't worry, we are hitting the pause button. We'll get you back into the courtroom for this all-important testimony from the daughter.
Thank you, Shay, for texting me and let me know I'm on mute. I'm talking about what I'm going to show and stuff, but thank you so much, Shay. All right, I'm pressing play. Thank you so much, Shay. And I think that I see, oh, Ashley and Lex, hello. Lex, let me know, did you watch the trial today? I'm just going to press this right here. I'm going to show where the daughter kind of snaps back at the defense attorney. So let me know if you can see it, and then let me know if you could hear it. It's super short.
I mean, she's my mother. There are things to be discussed about.
She told you that she thought it was your dad.
No. 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 I knew.
Well, I'm saying, what did she say? I'm not asking what
I already
you
knew
thought.
everything that my mom knew. She wasn't telling me anything that I didn't know already.
Okay. And do you remember telling her that you actually weren't there?
I do remember telling her that. I did.
And that you just knew what had happened because of a video you watched and from what your dad told you?
Yes. In the beginning of all of this, I did not come out.
I didn't have a question.
I was finishing your question.
That totally reminded me of, oh, hold on. It's still playing. So I don't know if you were able to hear it. The volume was super low, but she's like, I didn't have a question for you, or like I didn't have a question. It reminded me, and I know I always bring up the Depp trial, but where Camille Vasquez would say to Amber Heard, like when Amber Heard would start talking, I didn't have a question, and Amber Heard would get pissed. That's what she kind of just did to the daughter. So the daughter was like, I was answering your effing question. So I thought that was kind of funny in that part. So the daughter definitely can like hold her own, that's for sure. But yeah, let me get to other stuff. This part, a lot of the people here, let me get the inmate that was bunking with him. The inmate, literally, it's kind of a joke what he says at first about how he confessed. But yeah, let me show that part. And also, the defendant, not the defendant, the defense attorney.
Was there a time when you were observing the defendant when it appeared to you he was having a nightmare?
Yes.
And what do you remember about that incident?
I remember I was laying there the night before. I told him about it the next day, but I was laying there and I was reading my book and I heard him shout in his sleep before he woke himself up.
And what did he shout that you heard?
He said, "Die, die, die, motherfucker."
And you're quoting as best you remember?
Yes.
All right. And so did you ever have a discussion with the defendant about this nightmare that you heard him have, or these words he said?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And so if you know, about how long after that happened did you bring it up to him?
I brought it up to him the next day.
Okay. And what did you say to him about it?
I pretty much told him, I asked him about the situation, about that he was locked up about, and I told him that he was talking in his sleep or yelling about some stuff in his sleep, and he was like, "What did I say?" And I pretty much told him what he said, and he's like, "Yeah, are you serious?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you said it." So I asked him a question. I'm like, "Did you do it?" Like, what, you know what I'm saying? I think you did it. And we went from there.
And so what did the defendant respond when you said, I think you did it based on the nightmare? What did he say?
I told him to look me in my eyes and tell me that you didn't do it. And he jumped down from the bed and he looked me in my eyes and he said, "I did it." He said, "That's the reason I have the nightmares. I'm unable to sleep at night because I think about it all the time."
They were only together for like 3 weeks. Also.
Was there a discussion at some point where the defendant said to you, is it that obvious?
Yes, he did.
And so when did that come up?
Section leading. The very definition of leading.
Rephrase your question.
When, if ever, did the defendant say to you, is it that obvious?
Objection. Same exact same question.
That's taught in some law schools that's not a leading question.
sorry to keep pausing it, but Max Smith is bringing up so many great points. So Max Smith said, this man came forward 1 year after he claimed Zach admitted the murder to him. Very suspect. The man is trying to reduce his federal sentence. They spent 3 weeks together. Yes. And this gets brought up. And the man sitting next to Zachariah right now, they talk about how the other attorney literally mouths die to the guy on the stand. And also how he feels he's doing this so that he'll like go to bat for him to get a lesser sentence. And so I'll play that after. And they're trying, like, he ends up getting, it's like a whole fiasco, but let me finish this and then I'll show, like, if you saw, I think Nora's grandma said he worded it, but he literally was saying like, die, like kind of coaching his client, it looked like, or coaching the inmate.
Others, like the one I attended, say it is. So it's not firmly settled, but I do think in the final analysis, it tends to suggest an answer, so the objection is sustained.
In the discussion that you had where he looked you in the eye and said he did it, what else did he say, meaning the defendant?
Well, after we had talked and I told him, I basically knew he had did it, because I've been around killers. I know killers like pretty much, and he seems like a killer. I pretty much asked him like, how did you do it?
Judge, I'm going to object here.
He has no way of knowing who's a killer and who isn't, other than where he has personal knowledge, such as something he would have observed with his own senses. And then there's people who might make that statement based upon the hearsay that we talk about all the time, and that's not even been stated here. So he's making a judgment just based upon no basis at all, really, in fact, that would ever be considered admissible in court. So please disregard that entire statement. Any question? Thank you.
So when you asked the defendant, how did he do it? What was said next? What did the defendant tell you?
Well, he spoke indirectly. Starting off, he wasn't pretty much trying to say everything that he did. I feel like he was held back, but he said that, well, you gotta know a person, you gotta learn a person, you gotta be able to know, where they live, how they move, when they leave, what they drive. And then he told me, one way of knowing when a person is going to be in a certain area is GPS tracking. And he told me Amazon sells GPS tracking that you can put on people's car.
Did he use a phrase to describe the circumstances of his case?
What do you mean?
Did he? At some point were you aware of a nickname that some people had given the defendant?
Yes.
And at some point, what nickname did you hear people address the defendant with occasionally?
A lot of times people would say Houdini or Zach Houdini, or just telling me about who my cellie was.
And did they? And was this a nickname that you did you understand why this nickname was given to the defendant?
Yes, I did.
Why was it?
Objection.
What's the relevance?
What on earth is the basis?
Because of what the defendant's reaction is to the nickname. So my offer of proof is when the defendant
Wait,
was...
No, Judge.
Well, no, he's talking.
No, but I think...
He's talking.
Okay.
When the defendant was confronted with this nickname, he, according to the witness, there was a reaction that is relevant.
Judge, I think that we had, in fact, the court instructed us to not go into all this arguing about evidence in front of the jury.
I think the last question was started with a why, as a word. Why?
I think this judge needs to retire.
Pardon me?
When the defendant was confronted with this nickname.
Why don't you start with a new question?
When the defendant was called Houdini by individuals, how did the defendant react?
He never denied it. He just would laugh it off, or just go on about his day.
And did the defendant talk about why people were calling him Houdini and describe what that was about to you?
Yes, he said they called him Houdini because of his case, basically because he made a body disappear, they say, and everybody called him Houdini because of it.
And what can you say about how he was acting when he described that to you? Was he sad, regretful, just neutral? Was he proud? Describe his reaction as he had that discussion with you.
I think he was kind of like proud, but not really showing it. Like he kind of smiled it off. I mean, in jail, like you when you're around people, you got to have like this kind of name for yourself. I don't know.
sorry to pause it. Nora's grandma, so he was called Houdini, not him in the orange, but Zachariah, because he apparently could make a body disappear. So Rosalio Gutierrez has never been found. So they apparently call Zachariah Houdini since he was able to make a body disappear. Hopefully you got that.
Everybody fighting the same battle in there, so everybody fighting different cases, and he kind of like know his case is big, and because of it, everybody know him. So he kind of like wear that jacket a little bit. He doesn't admit it to everybody, but he does wear the jacket, in my opinion.
And what, if anything, did the defendant tell you about the circumstances on how he committed the crime? So you've already talked about, he said it took a lot of work. You got to follow the person's patterns, trackers from Amazon. You said all that. So what did he tell you ultimately? Were any of the circumstances he told you about how he did anything?
Yeah, he ultimately pretty much just told me that.
Well, I don't want to hear testimony of he pretty much just told
Okay,
me.
well,
I'm not scolding you. I'm just telling you. You can quote exactly what was said, but we don't want your conclusion pretty much told. Okay.
And Judge, a witness is not going to be able to exactly quote. We're not computers, so he's going to say, "Here's what I believe I was told." Right?
Well, I understand your point is legitimate.
Okay. So,
however, that's a flashing warning sign when someone states he pretty much said thus and so. You may be able to access the information you seek with a different question, but we're 9 days into this trial. We don't want to ignore flashing warning signs.
Okay. So what did the defendant tell you about how he committed the case that he's charged with, and what the circumstances were?
He said that he had seen this person, and he said he stabbed him, and he blacked out. He said he stabbed him, and I just blacked out. And he said he eventually wrapped the body up in garbage bags and got rid of the trash. He threw the trash out. Okay. And I asked him, what did he mean by that? And I said, what, like dumpster or trash? And he said, once it's gone, it's gone.
What do you guys think of his testimony?
What, if anything, did the defendant say about whether after killing this person? Well, all right. So based on what you've said, putting in trash bags, it won't be found. Did you ask him any follow-up questions about things like how he moved the body?
Yes.
Okay. And what did the defendant tell you about how he moved the body of this person?
Well, I asked him, like, I'm like, you did this by yourself pretty much? Well, you did this by yourself? And he said, yes. He said he took him on his own. He didn't have his help with his brothers, because you guys said that his brothers was involved with this. He said he did not have any help. He did it all by himself. And I'm looking at him like, okay, don't look, I don't know if he was telling me the truth or not, because he was not a big guy, but he said, you should have seen me before I came in here. He was like, I was real cut. I was healthy. I was strong. When I first came in here, everybody was calling me Superman. So I'm like, oh.
And did he say, other than his own strength, did he say any other reason why he felt like he'd been able to do it himself?
Other than strength and adrenaline, that's everything he said.
Now, did you ask him, what, if anything, came up about why he did this? Why would he end this person's life?
He said to get back at his kid's mother.
And what did he tell you any more about that?
Yeah, he said that he was angry with a bunch of different things, but he said she kind of bragged about this other guy and that she was happy. He didn't really want his kids around that.
Other than the details you've described so far, did he provide any other details to you about the offense or any other of the circumstances of this case, other than what you've said so far?
He didn't really speak much. He told me what he told me, but he did say, no case. No body, no case. And that was where he left it at pretty much.
Now,
Okay, I think that's enough of him. I'm going to show the part where it says that he was worded, like the attorney worded what to say. And then I also want to show where it was almost another mistrial. And they're saying like how Sadie could possibly be involved. But let me show this one part. One moment. And my dog's snoring again, so hopefully you don't hear her, but you might, because she's like a few feet from me. Okay, I think this is it. Yes.
Team, excuse me, were contacted by a number of people and were sent clips
Let me know if you can see and hear
of
it.
Marquand Washington's direct testimony. And in particular, and this was people watching Fox 6, et cetera. And of course, I did not see this because I was up questioning him, but the clips were essentially, Judge, that you remember, I don't know if you remember the testimony about him describing Zach in his sleep, and he said, quote, die, 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 mother, end quote.
We were required to do to get some sort of a clip of this interaction between myself and Mr. Washington.
I did not sign any order.
Okay.
I issued a subpoena to Law and Crime, and they provided it for me. And so if there's some foundational question, I have somebody available.
Thanks.
Law and
Crime. In that second meeting, that was to prepare you for your testimony that you gave last week, right?
If that's what you call it, I guess. I don't know.
Well, that was the topic of the discussion, wasn't it?
It was, yes, to let me know everything that I had told them that they had went over and stuff like that, correct?
So they went over with you what sort of reviewed what you had already told them.
Pretty much, yes.
All the stuff about Zach's sleeping habits, right?
They just repeated what I had said to them, yes.
So they were repeating stuff to you from the reports they written from your first meeting?
Yeah, they read what I had said and let me know that they had made a statement about it, yes.
Did they show you that statement?
I didn't get to read it or no.
Okay, so they just told you what you had said?
Correct.
Okay, and was it Mr. Gravely was doing that?
Yes.
Okay, and was anybody else talking, or was it mainly him?
Mr. Gravely.
Okay, and
Thank
so
you, sir.
Mr. Gravely.
So he told you, this is what you said before, this is what you said before, this is, just went right down the line, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, and was this the point where he was saying, well, if you stick to this, I'm gonna look out for you, and I'm gonna go to bat for you with the federals?
He never said that.
Okay, so, but that was your understanding, right?
What do you mean?
That was your understanding that if you said the things that he was saying in that meeting, if you said them on the stand, then he would go to bat for you. That was your understanding.
If you look at it, I guess so, yeah.
Okay, so when you actually testified, when you were in that seat last Thursday, I believe it was, you had made a comment about Zach saying, quote, die, 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 motherfucker. Do you remember that?
Correct.
And while you were speaking those words, you were looking directly at Mr. Gravely, weren't you?
I'm not sure who I was looking at the time.
Okay.
He asked me, I think he had asked me the question, so I may have been looking at him, but I'm not sure.
Okay. And as you were mouthing those words, he was mouthing them back at you, wasn't he?
I can't say I recall that. I don't remember that.
Okay. You don't have a recollection of that?
Correct.
Would it refresh your recollection if I played you a clip? Yeah. I don't know if we can get it louder.
What do you remember about that? What did he shout? And so, did you ever have discussions with the defendant about this nightmare?
So that's not a perfect representation, given that there's some lag.
Well, the pending question is
Does it refresh his
whether it refreshes his recollection.
Right. So do you remember, as you were speaking those words, Mr. Gravely mouthing them towards you?
It seemed like, as I said it, he got to repeating it, but it didn't seem like he said it first or repeated it to me or something, if that's what you're asking.
I'm asking if it looked like he was mouthing them towards you as you said them.
Right there.
No, I'm saying from your memory, not from what you just saw.
Oh, from what I remember.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that, but.
Okay. All right. So to answer the question is you don't recall that happening while you were testifying last week?
Correct.
You believe we've spoken twice?
I believe so.
First time was over in the facility with several officers present.
Correct.
Took a little more than an hour.
So I don't know if you need to see any more of him really, but yeah, he was really being coached on the stand. He was telling him basically what to say. There's been so much coaching. It's unbelievable. The judge says like, I'm watching all of you, but he doesn't really do anything. It's just like empty threats. Like he says, I'm watching the dad, I'm watching the mom, I'm watching all of you to see like who's coaching and everything. So let me get a couple more clips for you guys, because there's so many different things. It's hard to decide what to show. Let me get one thing. One moment. Hold, please. I'm going to show the part where it was almost another mistrial, because that's where they bring in a lot of good points of things that Sadie's done that's been like shady. And people are calling her Shady Sadie. That's the nickname that I've seen on her for Reddit. But yeah, let me get that. Okay, I believe this is it. Please press 1 if you can see it and hear it. Well, you can't hear it yet, but now. No, now.
Gravely, I hadn't pressed the button. That's why.
Oh my God, congratulations. I mean, I was saying congratulations to the members, but thank you, Misfit. Thank you so much, Misfit. I was going to tell you congratulations, Misfit. Thank you so much.
Be able to name a party and indicate that there are factual circumstances that are consistent with them being guilty of procuring this homicide in the alternative is exactly what Denny was designed to prevent. The court is aware that Denny asks that the defense file a written motion giving all parties notice so that the parties do not, in mid-trial, have alternative actual named parties be described, as well as factual circumstances which are designed to cause the jury to suspect that person is an alternative individual. This is exactly what Denny was designed to prevent. And now the name Sadie Beecham has been associated with this jury with being involved in planning a homicide of this individual, and that's in direct violation. There is no doubt that the defense is on notice as to what Denny is or its expectations. We litigated a Denny motion just last week where they laid out a direct foundation. These are, again, the quoting to the jury are text messages. These are not new pieces of information. And frankly, as I indicated in the prior Denny motion, the court has an obligation as a steward of this information to be sure that all parties are dealt with fairly here. We are required to be able to be provided notice if individuals are out there in that situation and be able to defend those individuals, and the court is required to rule on this beforehand. So I believe this to be an improper argument. I don't think it can be cured at this point, and so I ask the court to consider what our remedies are, but I believe that this is a clear Denny violation and that this is a mistrial.
If I may be heard, Judge. Thank you. In my opening statement, before I started going into this sequence, I talked about how law enforcement did not follow up or look into anything as far as possible other suspects or leads. I'm not offering this. And first of all, I'm just talking about the evidence that's going to come in, right? At this point, this is what the opening statement's for. This is a message string between Miss Beecham and another witness. This will come in. And it's not to offer it, Judge. It's not to offer it to say it was her. It's to offer it to show that law enforcement did not investigate her, did not investigate anyone else. That's not a Denny motion. I'm not pointing the finger. I'm not saying Miss Beecham did it. I'm saying they could have followed up on this. They should have followed up on this, and they didn't. It's very different.
First of all, you're telling me it's not coming in. And if it's not coming in, then you're not supposed to talk about it.
No, I said it is coming in, that this will come in through witnesses.
Say it wasn't going to come in.
No, sorry. If
I heard you wrong.
Okay.
Did you want to respond, Mr. Waverly?
Yeah, you can talk about whatever purpose you want. The argument made to the jury is other people should have been looked at. I mean, you couldn't be more clear in your argument. The argument was other people did this crime. My client did not, other people did. Here's example one. And she's now laid out specific electronic evidence that she wants the jury to be presented. So not only is she making an accusation, the substance of this accusation is that Sadie Beecham and a friend of hers have conspired to find a third party who will kill this person. That's the allegation that's been just made. And she's indicating that's what the text would lead a reasonable person to believe. There's been no notice of that specific allegation. The jury has now heard it. It's been shared with the jury. There's a whole body of case law in Wisconsin that does not allow a private citizen to be accused. And for a person to say, well, that's not for the purpose of accusing another human being of murder, that's what she's done. That's the argument that's been made. It doesn't matter if that's not the sole purpose you have. Your objective here is to tell the jury, hey, there's reasonable doubt. Sadie Beecham did this. Look at this electronic message. That's why you argue that. There's no other reasonable argument as to why this has been shared with the jury. And why weren't we given notice of this? Why wasn't, when a Denny motion was filed with all the details, and I complimented the defense just a week ago when they provided their factual circumstances so the court could litigate that with the state, because I believe that's the entire proper procedure. I'm on record as having complimented them for supplementing and providing a factual basis for the court to make a fair ruling. And we are in complete absence of that in this situation. This can't be remedied. Sadie Beecham has been accused of murder when Denny exists as litigation in this state.
If I may respond.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. I have not accused anyone of anything. I think it's been very clear that the defense is saying that none of this evidence exists, and law enforcement, instead of doing their jobs to investigate, just went with a single individual, that they had tunnel vision. An extremely proper defense, and this does not fall under Denny, is to say what the law enforcement didn't do. I'm not here to purport that this is what happened, nor have I said that. During trial, it'll be, this message was sent. Hey, detective, were you aware of this? Did you look into it? Do you think it's a little bizarre? Yeah. And leave it at that. Nowhere have I just said right now that I intend on pinning this all on Miss Beecham, nor have I think that has been the theme of my opening statement.
But if you don't have greater information than that, and why is it relevant? I mean, what difference would it make whether the police followed through on it or not, unless there's reason to believe that that was the person who was responsible for the disappearance of the decedent? It's irrelevant. And I mean, I'm hoping they didn't investigate me too, or Mr. Gravely, or Ms. Grzarek. They'd have to have a reason to do that. And if there isn't abundant reason to suspect that Ms. Beecham was involved then I think Mr. Gridley is quite right. This is just a camouflaged Denny effort.
The defense would respectfully disagree with that, Your Honor. By sustaining the state's objection, the court would ultimately be holding that the defense cannot go into how law enforcement didn't do their job, which in a case where there's no body, no evidence of human
Why
remains.
didn't you file a motion?
It's not a Denny motion. I'm not offering this to point the finger at someone to say this person did the crime.
You have an alternative actor theory.
It's not an alternative actor theory. And if I could maybe give a preview to what was going to come next is the 20 other things that law enforcement didn't follow up on. It's more targeted, if I may finish, it's more targeted to what law enforcement did or did not do, opposed to what some third party did or did not do. That is what this is going towards, and the defense would maintain that that is extremely relevant. It does not fall under the curtails of Denny, and that we are permitted to go into that in opening argument and during the pendency of this trial.
Okay, I want to be heard on the precise thing that was said by the defense, because this is a disingenuous argument to say, my argument is just a police officer. Here's the text message. Isn't this weird? That's what she just told you. Here's what she represented to the jury. She said that she read the text message and said that this mysterious third party will take care of this, but you won't know the details and we'll know in a week, right? And then she said, she commented to the jury, and a week is when Sadie Beecham goes and discovers this bloody scene. So she ties it in. She says, guess what, jury? At the end of the week, it's Sadie Beecham who, in response to this message, has now made this discovery. This is implicating Sadie Beecham directly in a homicide. That's the only reason you make that argument. She didn't remark, and I didn't object when she first began to speak. What she told the jury was that this is bolstered by Sadie Beecham being the person who discovers this scene a week later, which is in accordance with the detail with the text. This should not be investigated by the state on the fly. This is just not Denny does not allow a scenario where a fellow human being can be accused of a homicide and the state is expected to figure out on the fly what this information leads to. The jury has every reasonable expectation right now that Sadie Beecham could be the killer based on what's been said. That should never, ever be said in a courtroom until Denny is litigated, ever. I mean, this is a line that it's not even a close line that's being crossed here. And we cannot remedy this, Judge. It cannot be remedied for this jury.
What I was going to say before the objection came was that even just, okay, so it's still, again, not being offered to point the finger at her. And I'm not sure.
Frankly, your Denny motion that I denied with respect to Mr. Campbell, I might have granted the one on this one because there is not more body to it. So I think Mr. Gravely correctly is concerned that this is just, as I said, a camouflaged Denny motion or effort.
I disagree. The defense disagrees. This is law enforcement. So we can't go into how law enforcement investigated this crime then. Would ultimately be the court's holding, because there's
that's not the court's holding.
So why didn't you investigate the person who just happened to find all of this? So is that pointing the finger?
That's not the issue before me. This isn't midway through the trial that you didn't ask some probing questions of the detective if he testifies. And ask, well, did you look at this? Did you look at that? To try to show a sloppy investigation, if you think it was. This is in your opening statement and planting a seed and it's all right to plant seeds. That's why we have opening statements. But this particular one has a special body of law handed down to us from the Supreme Court of the United States. And as I say, you correctly brought the Denny motion on Mr. Campbell's issue, but I think this is, well, it's in the same category.
If I can further be heard.
Yeah.
So what is the difference then between saying law enforcement, because I do anticipate talking to Carrera and other detectives about these messages, about whether they looked into any other possible individuals, which is not a Denny motion. And so what's the difference between me saying to a jury in an opening statement, which is what I believe the evidence that's going to come in is going to come in, that this message is going to come in and law enforcement did not follow up on that.
I'm not going to
always make me laugh, Nora's grandma.
But I'm saying
you're capable of making your own decision about whether you want to ask the question and what the risk would be. But this is a concrete issue that is before me now, and I think is correctly analyzed by the state. And what I'm struggling with is what to do about it.
Well, Judge, frankly, Denny requires notice. So this jury is tainted. We need the court to provide us an opportunity for, if this is an argument they wish to make with an individual identified, they need to notice us, provide us what the factual basis is they're going to allege, and allow us to counter that. This is what happened with the Campbell situation, right? We had the police look at their information, do an investigation that would allow the court to be provided both sides of what that information would entail. And then the court is able to make an educated gatekeeper determination. That wasn't done here. Counsel would be prohibited from arguing an opening or closing without Denny guidance, without the court gatekeeping under Denny any of this information. So under whatever shield they want to use, whatever they want to label it, it still can't be argued in opening or closing as something that is alleged in this case unless the court gives them permission. This is a mistrial. You cannot take away a suspect from a jury. You can't do it. And they should provide the proper notice, as Denny requires, as they did on the prior attempt, and we should have a chance to litigate that before this court. And it shouldn't be a day's notice. It should be sufficient notice for the state to do a real investigation.
Naturally, the defense is maintaining that this isn't a Denny issue. As far as notice, if this is concerned that this text message is coming out of nowhere, these are records that were provided by the state. These are records that the detectives in this matter have went through months ago. They've seen this text message, and if they haven't, that's on them. It's not my fault to make sure they've looked at every piece of paper in the discovery that they provided to me. I found it. I intend to use it to show that law enforcement honed in on my client and didn't investigate anything else. That's not a Denny issue. So as far as notice, the state's had this information. I'm not using it to point the finger at Sadie. I'm using it to point the finger at the fact that law enforcement did not do an effective job investigating and instead painted my client in a certain way. And as the court's aware, this is a bodiless homicide. There's no human remains. There's nothing. And the investigation of law enforcement should be the focus of a defense here.
I'm not sure that it makes any difference whether there's a body or not in terms of this particular issue. But now, before we break, so that I can look at the authorities on this again. Ordinarily I have an individual colloquy with the defendant when there's a motion for mistrial about jeopardy. And actually the first case here was dismissed without finding on jeopardy. I didn't have, ended up as a motion to dismiss without prejudice. And I'm not obliged to go through a waiver colloquy with you, but you need to understand that if you're wrong about this, and I agree with you and am wrong about it, you're done.
Yeah, I'm aware that the appellate court makes its own decision on these matters. I'm aware of that. I'm aware that the body of law indicates that if the court makes discretionary decisions, and if the Court of Appeals agrees with the court's exercise of discretion and the defense is engaged in a form of misconduct in this case, that jeopardy does not attach. So, I understand that the Court of Appeals could disagree with the court's exercise of discretion, but I believe that is the litigation that would take place.
Well, you refer to it as an act of misconduct by the defense. it could be an act of mistake by the defense.
Absolutely. Right. When I say misconduct, I mean it in the broadest sense. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But clearly it was a deliberate argument, and it was a deliberate decision to not file a Denny motion. So this is not an accident. It may be a disagreement about the law, but this is not accidental conduct.
Well, I don't want to get into that, other than to say, I made a comment that I thought that her argument on this issue would have probably been stronger than I didn't say probably, I said was stronger than the one with the other, I don't know, I'm stumbling. Campbell.
Right.
But she could have also, in good faith, thought the other way, and she brought the one on Campbell, and I denied that. Maybe she felt that was the stronger. That's not deliberate. That's a deliberate choice for her to bring that particular motion, but it doesn't mean she thought that she was bringing the weaker of the two. That doesn't make any sense.
No, she has an obligation to bring a Denny as to each one.
I agree.
Yeah, it's not like an appellate.
But you're saying it was
Also, if I may, I'm here
Please.
and can make the record myself of why I did
You know
something.
what? She's a wonderful, experienced, fantastic reporter, and she's trained. If more than one person is talking at the same time, take the judge. And I don't doubt she could probably take heated discussions, 2 or 3 lawyers at one time. But I don't want to rely on that. You're all talking. And when I start talking, not because I'm so bright or so capable, but just because you're talking to the air. It won't get into the record, or you can't count on it being in the record. So I'm talking. So, and I've forgotten what I wanted to say. Yeah, you know, I don't want to get into purposeful. Well, it was purposeful, but whether it was a willful matter is willful in the sense of trying to avoid application of the rule. I'm not in that situation. I don't have to be.
Right.
But it needs to be understood, and you can say for the Court of Appeals, if there is an appeal out of this issue, your thoughts on the subject of whether her conduct was improper or careless or purposeful in a negative sense. So I'm not going to even touch that right now. I do want to look at the exact statement again, and I'll take another look at Denny and the prior Supreme Court decision, and I'll ask the jury to return at 1:30.
I've been talking on mute again. Oh my God, I just need to keep it unmuted all the time. I can't believe I've been doing that, but let me know. Put 1 if you can hear it and see it in just a moment.
Closing out set to begin tomorrow in Zachariah Anderson's homicide trial.
He's charged with killing his ex-girlfriend's new love interest and then hiding the body, which has never been found. Bill Miston gives us a closer look.
It's been nearly 3 years since anyone saw or heard from Rosalio Gutierrez, after the woman he was dating found a bloody scene inside his Kenosha apartment in May 2020. Police focused on Zachariah Anderson as a suspect early on.
Do you remember overseeing the pumping of the septic tank on Mr. Anderson's property?
Yes, I do.
The septic tank was pumped. That is a place that you could hide a body.
As Anderson's homicide trial entered its fourth week Monday, Anderson's defense worked to raise enough doubt to convince a jury to find Anderson not guilty, arguing police ignored other possibilities.
Did you find anything?
We did not.
Police even searched Anderson's family's Sheboygan County business.
There was the search of the Greenview/Anderson tree farm.
Correct.
More time was spent Monday waiting for witnesses to show up than hearing testimony. 3 defense witnesses were unavailable. The last defense witness, a deputy fire chief, testified about being called to Anderson's Mequon home as police found a still burning fire pit.
What about steel-toed boots? Are those legal to burn in these burn pits?
No, sir.
And what about underwear and socks?
No, sir.
Is it common that in areas such as Mequon, people will burn some of their trash?
If the
They love to talk about his underwear. It gets brought up a lot. I'm telling you, they were talking about it a lot today, and they just did now. I don't know if you caught it about how it was in the fire pit, but here, let me press play.
they are doing so, it's in violation.
When the time came, Anderson said he was following his attorney's advice by not testifying.
Yeah, I think my attorneys gave me an excellent explanation. I do have concerns. I do have questions, but as far as testifying is concerned, I think they were very clear with me about that. I think we're already basically on the same page.
By the afternoon, jurors were read some of the jury instructions and sent home to come back in the morning when closing arguments will begin, with jury deliberations to follow. In Kenosha, Bill Miston, Fox 6 News.
So let me get some of the quote, like evidence that they have to show you. I'm probably on mute. Oh, I'm not on mute. I thought I was on mute. Okay. All right, hold on. Okay, so this is the evidence that was found. And I'm just doing short clips now, so we don't have to watch 8 hours of testimony.
DNA evidence in a Kenosha homicide trial. Prosecutors say a man was killed nearly 3 years ago. His body's never been found. Our Bill Miston joins us now
Hopefully you
as the
can hear
Zachariah
this.
Anderson trial ends its first week.
That's right, guys. And much of the testimony today detailed the bloody crime scene found at Rosalio Gutierrez's Kenosha apartment and how the evidence collected there was used in the case.
In general, what is luminol?
It gives you an indication if there is blood.
State Crime Lab forensic scientist Lisa Treffinger said that was used on parts of Zachariah Anderson's van. Police found it with the rear seats removed and a portion of the carpet cut out.
Good night,
Treffinger
Shay.
said a lab tech later noted
you
the
for
smell
being
of
here.
bleach and the white-colored stain on the carpet, but then spotted something else.
Yes, it was a tiny speck, like a pinhead dot.
A reddish-brown stain on the van trim near the rear tailgate. Treffinger feared using luminol would dilute the sample, making it unusable for DNA testing, so it was collected.
Did you do DNA testing?
Yes.
What person was it a match for?
Rosalio Gutierrez.
It appeared to be either cast off or forcible blood.
Kenosha police officer Eric Widener is the senior evidence tech for the city. He collected blood evidence at Rosalio Gutierrez's apartment.
What did you see there?
Possible bloodstain evidence.
On the knob itself?
Correct.
Prosecutors' theory is that Anderson drove to Gutierrez's apartment on May 17, 2020, killed him and hid his body, and destroyed evidence of the crime. Gutierrez was dating Anderson's ex and mother of his children at the time. Anderson was in a relationship of his own too.
We were dating.
And that woman told police the two had plans the night police believed Gutierrez was killed.
So originally
That
you
was
said
his
you thought he was
girlfriend
over there.
at the time.
Originally, that's what I said.
Testimony is set to resume next week. Reporting live in Kenosha, Bill Miston, Fox 6 News.
But yeah, so that woman that was on the screen, that was his girlfriend at the time of him going missing or presumably murdered. Let me see what else. I wanted to show what they found in the burn pit. Let me get that. Hopefully this isn't the same exact thing that I just showed you. I'm not sure. It might be. I hope it's not, though. Let me know if this is the same thing.
Homicide trial. Prosecutors say Zachariah Anderson killed Rosalio Gutierrez, hid his body, and then destroyed the evidence. Fox 6's Aaron Maben live in Kenosha with the gruesome pictures attorneys focused on all day today. Aaron?
Mary, those pictures were really something, but they show what prosecutors call the aftermath of a brutal and bloody attack. I just stepped out of the courtroom, and the mother of Rosalio Gutierrez has taken the stand. She is painting a picture of who her son was, and she is tearing up right in front of the jury.
He was my life. We did everything together.
Celia Patterson, the mother of Rosalio Gutierrez, took the stand Monday. She spoke in front of the man accused of killing her only son.
Text, phone calls, video chats. He would always keep in communication with me.
It followed Kenosha officer Jeff Van Wee, who says he saw blood evidence in Rosalio Gutierrez's apartment.
I walked inside the hallway, and on apartment 1B, I saw dried red fluid stains all on the door itself and around the door.
Much of Monday's testimony focused on blood stains and spatter. Investigators captured blood on the ceiling, door, and covering his living room.
What sort of object causes that sort of blood spatter?
It's either blunt force trauma or gunshots.
Prosecutors believe Anderson drove.
Okay, so they said blunt force trauma or gunshots, but then in another thing, they said that they believe that he was stabbed, like with a sharp force, something sharp. So they really have no idea how he died, or if he died. I'm assuming that he did with all the blood, but they don't know how it happened.
To Gutierrez's apartment, killed him, and destroyed the evidence in May 2020. At the time, Gutierrez was dating Anderson's ex and the mother of his children. Nobody has found Gutierrez's body, but his blood saturated furniture.
Officer, where was the largest concentration of blood you saw on this scene?
On the living room floor.
Is that in this picture?
Yes, it is.
Monday afternoon, Anderson's defense attorney pushed back against Van Wee's testimony and his bloodstained training.
Besides that 40-hour course, what other specific training to bloodstain pattern analyses have you completed?
I've read text on my own as far as bloodstain pattern analysis goes, and I have experience in the field working with bloodstain patterns.
So how many courses have you taught that have just been about bloodstain pattern analysis?
None.
None.
The jury also saw photographs from Anderson's property in Mequon, and on that property, investigators took pictures of a burn pit that had bleach and burned clothing. We're live right outside the Kenosha County Courthouse tonight. Aaron Maben, Fox 6 News.
Gruesome details indeed. All right, Aaron, thank you.
So if you heard that in the burn pit that there was bleached, burned clothing, I know that they did say that there was like Levi's, like the buttons from the Levi's. I believe that from like steel-toed boots, they found like remnants of that. But let me see what else. But yes, there's a lot of like stuff that definitely makes it look like he did it, but you can't in like the pinprick of blood in the van. I mean, that I don't know how you really would explain that, but I still don't know if there's enough evidence. I mean, how's everybody thinking in chat so far about like with the daughter's testimony and with the girlfriend's testimony? That definitely proves stalking for sure, like a next level stalking. Like Joe from You. Let me see what else I want to play though real quick. Okay, here, I'm playing what police found in the burn pit.
And Zachariah Anderson's homicide trial could rest their case tomorrow.
This after a lead detective in the case spent the day on the witness stand. Bill Miston brings us up to speed on the day's events.
Police showed up to Rosalio Gutierrez's Kenosha apartment back on May 19th, 2020. Sadie Beecham, who was dating Gutierrez, called 911 after coming across a bloody scene inside.
There were accusations made by Ms. Beecham that she felt as though Mr. Anderson was listening in on her conversations and tracking them as well.
Police went to Zachariah Anderson's Mequon home and obtained a search warrant and later subpoenaed Amazon purchase records.
It was for 2 GPS tracker devices.
Purchased in the weeks before Gutierrez disappeared.
Next left onto 12th Street, Summers Road.
Police recovered turn-by-turn directions to Kenosha from Anderson's phone days before Gutierrez disappeared.
Well, they appear to be directions that would be possibly coming from, I guess, the north, coming into the Kenosha area.
When police did show up at that apartment on May 19th,
there was no immediate signs of forced entry. It was consistent with the appearance of blood that was on the wall, the door. The person from inside had opened that door to the outside.
Later that day at Anderson's home in Mequon, police found a number of items they believed were of interest.
How much cash was paid to the customer associated with this bank account?
$50,000.
Taken out 2 days before Gutierrez disappeared. And in a still smoldering fire pit, jean buttons, underwear, and what's believed to be remnants of steel-toed boots, suspected of being worn by Anderson.
There were no web searches on how to clean up a crime scene.
I don't recall at all seeing how to clean up a crime scene, no.
The lead detective says he's never spent so much time or collected so much evidence in a case in his career. The state is expected to rest its case on Friday. Reporting in Kenosha, Bill Miston, Fox 6 News.
Okay. All right, let me see what else. I know that we've been on here a long time. I'm just trying to get everything caught up. I'm trying to see what I should show before we go. I mainly wanted to show the daughter and the ex-girlfriend, and you saw the other girlfriend for a moment, and you saw the inmate who said about that he confessed in a nightmare, which I don't know about that. Let me see. What is this one? Yeah, I'm just not muting myself anymore. So you're going to hear my dog and my cat in the background and everything. I'm not sure which clip this is, but hopefully it's okay.
In Kenosha, Wisconsin, with a look back at some of that key testimony that the jury heard in the obsessed ex-boyfriend murder trial. The defendant's daughter taking the stand, testifying against her father, her mother watching along as she detailed her dad's obsessive behavior. Obsessive with her mother, obsessive with her mother's new boyfriend, the victim in this case, the man who was killed, Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. And the daughter detailed for the jury the time that her dad actually brought her along to spy on her mom. At times she...
Angie, so let me see, am I muted? Okay, no, I'm not muted. So he took $50K out. Zachariah took $50K out 2 days beforehand. So they're saying that they think that he took it out just in case he had to like flee the country or something. And they do show those the bag of cash that he had on him. I believe it was at his house. So he had $50K in cash at, I'll see if I can find that photo, but they did show it to the jury as well. Took it out 2 days before Rosalio Gutierrez was gone.
She sounded very emotional, and on cross, she got rather frustrated. But perhaps the biggest moment that happened during her time on the stand was a gesture that her dad made to her. Take a look at this.
My previous question allowed the option of that there was no conversation. This one asks what the contents of any conversation was.
It's asking for specific contents.
If I could finish. Somehow I have to be able to get her to the topic. It's not, it's not what did you say next? What did you say next? What did you, that narrative will not allow me to get her to a topic.
How about, do you recall any other conversations?
But the conversations with the defendant would be, I mean, they saw each other all the time. There'd be conversations about everything.
There you saw the defendant appear to make a motion, putting his hands up to his mouth. What was that about? Was that a signal to his daughter to keep quiet? What did you think? Tweet us, let us know. I'm going to bring in now a special guest on the program. She's somebody that works very hard behind the scenes at Court TV, day in and day out. She is one of our field producers. Adrienne Luis is standing by for us in Wisconsin. Adrienne, good morning to you. Always great to talk to you, my friend. Let's start with that gesture, if we can, please, because you are physically in the courtroom for these trials that we cover. You travel all over the country, and you've been in this one every single day, watching everything. What can you tell us about what the defendant did there in that grabbing of his lips?
Sure, Julie. So throughout the trial, the defendant has had a muted reaction towards the testimony up until his daughter took the stand. At times, he looked very happy to see her, and she, being raised by him, looked very familiar with him. And I imagine it was a difficult testimony for her. And throughout that testimony, she had to go into so much detail about all of the traumatic experiences that she had with not just this incident, but others. And, there were times, there were very lighthearted times, but then also very difficult moments for her. And it appeared that when the defendant made that gesture towards his lips, it could have been where he was trying to calm her down during one of her more animated moments, or possibly if it was a moment when she was revealing a little bit more about their past relationship, that he could have been preventing her from incriminating too much about himself.
Sure. Adrienne, you touched on this a bit, and I wanted to expand upon it with you, please, if I could. The daughter up there for quite some time yesterday, as you know, and it was like a roller coaster, really, as you said, times where it was a little bit lighthearted, times incredibly serious, times where she got emotional. Kind of walk us through that, and especially those really emotional moments. What did you pick up on where those came from, please?
Well, she testified to her previous relationship where she was controlled by him. Those are words, that's the word that she used. And that's how she responded to different moments leading up to the incident where she found out that her mother's boyfriend, Rosalio Gutierrez, disappeared. And she took her time throughout this testimony, very careful. She was very careful about what she said. But when she was on cross, I could visibly see that she was frustrated and at times defensive, but overall it seemed like she was very eager to tell her side of what she experienced and to really paint a picture of what happened, what led up to Rosalio's disappearance.
I appreciate that, Adrienne. And we have a clip that really touches on what you've just shared with us. Let's roll that now, and we'll talk more on the other side.
She told you that she thought it was your dad.
No. No. I knew.
Well, I'm saying, what did she say? I'm not asking what
I already knew
thought.
everything that my mom knew. She wasn't telling me anything that I didn't know already.
Okay. And do you remember telling her that you actually weren't there?
I do remember telling her that. I did.
And that you just knew what had happened because of a video you watched and from what your dad told you?
Yes. In the beginning of all of this, I did not come out.
I didn't have a question.
I was finishing your saw him sitting on the couch with my mother coming out of the bathroom. And wow. I didn't think that was gonna be this hard. They were listening to music and laying there together.
You really can just feel the emotion just listening to her voice, and you were able to see it firsthand, Adrian. How was she looking to you in those two moments? You know, we showed the moment on cross, and then, of course, that moment, you know, talking about seeing her mom with her dad on that escapade, or her mom with mom's new boyfriend on the escapade her dad took her on that night.
In that particular moment, Julie, I could tell that she was very patient with herself. She took a moment to gather her emotions, pause. You could see that the tears were welling up in her eyes, but, you know, she was really resisting that. You know, she's so close to the jury, so I can imagine they could sympathize with her, how difficult it was for her to testify to that exact moment. I saw her in that moment peer up at the ceiling, blink rapidly, and then before she, you know, carefully chose her words to say, you know, that that's when she saw Gutierrez in her mother's apartment and her mother walking out of the bathroom. And what's very interesting about this is that she also said that she had spoken to numerous people, law enforcement officers, and even the DA multiple times about this. And it was very telling that it was still so emotional despite having to, review it again and again before this moment.
Oh, sure. Sure. We were talking earlier, Adrian, with a therapist about how it must have been so traumatic for her to do what she did yesterday, and the trauma that she went through, you know, previously being brought along for these incidents allegedly, and just going through all that. Your heart breaks for her. I'm curious, have you noticed any victims advocates? I know you see them in and around courthouses for the various trials that you're covering. Have you seen any with this minor child at any point?
There is a victims coordinator, and throughout the trial, so the minor has not been in court up until yesterday. And yesterday, the victims coordinator was at her side at all times. I saw that it appeared that they had a pretty good relationship. I'm sure they had been working together for some time.
All right, I'm gonna play something else. I'm gonna show where the Rodney Dangerfield looking for the state where he's thrown out of the courtroom. I'm gonna show that. I know I told Misfit I would show it, so let me get that. I already have it ready. It's just a short clip, so I just have a few more things to show. All right, so let me know if you can see it, and I'm pressing play.
A judge forces the lead prosecutor out of the Kenosha courtroom. It happened during key testimony in the Zachariah Anderson trial today. Anderson is accused of killing Rosalio Gutierrez and hiding his body. Our Aaron Maben live tonight in Kenosha with the courtroom battle. Aaron?
Mary, this homicide trial had high drama today, and for much of it, the district attorney wasn't even allowed inside the courtroom.
Here, I'm going to ask you to remove him from this case. He is now a witness. He needs to be out of the room and sequestered.
Zachariah Anderson's attorney calling for Kenosha County DA Michael Gravely to recuse himself.
Judge, I want to indicate what a stunt I believe this is.
The courtroom drama is connected to witness Nareda Macias. She was supposed to meet Rosalio Gutierrez May 17, 2020. The day prosecutors believe Zachariah Anderson killed Gutierrez in a jealous rage. Tuesday, the defense said Gravely made himself a witness by questioning Macias in 2020, when part of her story started to change.
I don't know what we're discussing that was not discussed a couple of weeks ago before this court.
Well, what we're discussing is the only stunt here is Mr. Gravely misrepresenting to this court what what actually happened. The fact is that he went out and met with this witness months before trial, didn't tell us anything about it.
The judge asked Gravely to leave the courtroom during this testimony. Issues with this same witness led to the 2022 mistrial.
This is a perilous area. I don't want to get any closer to the edge than I have to.
Turns out Macias arrived at the wrong apartment building that night.
Previously, you told law enforcement that you were in front of Mr. Gutierrez's apartment, correct?
Yes.
And then it's only after you met with the district attorney, Michael Gravely, that you are now saying you were in a different location.
The state says her testimony is key to the timeline, showing how quick the bloody attack could have unfolded.
So after 8:25 p.m. when he texts you, I understand, do you hear anything further from Mr. Gutierrez Jr.?
No.
To this day, have you ever heard anything further from Mr. Gutierrez?
No.
I was talking on mute again. Oh my god, I need to put a little like post-it note on my computer that says unmute yourself.
And witness testimony in a Kenosha homicide trial today brought more attention in the Zachariah Anderson trial in Kenosha. He is accused of killing Rosalio Gutierrez and hiding his body. Our Aaron Mabin was in the courtroom as the drama played out. He joins us live with an update. Aaron?
Mary, today, one of Rosalio Gutierrez's longtime friends took the stand, and during the defense's line of questioning, a heated exchange began.
Did you perceive that there was a body inside, or that Rosalio Gutierrez was missing?
I was told he was missing.
After Michael Campbell realized his friend Rosalio Gutierrez was missing, he says he and another friend drove to Zachariah Anderson's home.
What were you hoping that might occur?
To see his reaction to, conversation that I'm having with him. Said, hey, I'm here to look for Zachariah Anderson. It's about a friend that is missing, that I have belief that you have something to do with it.
Michael Campbell says Gutierrez told him about Anderson before Gutierrez disappeared in May 2020. Prosecutors allege Anderson stalked and killed Gutierrez in a jealous attack and then hid the body. Gutierrez was in a relationship with Anderson's ex and the mother of his kids.
Did you assume that Mr. Anderson had something to do?
With this?
Yes.
Of course.
During Campbell's testimony, the state attacked the defense's line of questioning.
I have a duty to my client, to Mr. Anderson, to impeach a witness's credibility where I believe that there's impeachable information.
The state accused the defense of bringing up information it shouldn't have. Minutes later, with the jury outside the courtroom, this.
I think you're...
If I could continue, Judge.
Pardon me?
Sorry, if I could,
I didn't ask you to interrupt me.
I have not gone into anything that yesterday I made that record, Judge. I wanted to give a preview of what I was going to ask, and the court allowed me to do so.
That's literally not true.
District Attorney Michael Gravely was frustrated with the defense.
I don't understand how this keeps happening. I don't understand how the court makes a ruling and then we are again litigating the same thing. We've done this numerous times, Judge.
And all that happened before the lunch break. So we came back in the court.
Okay, I think there's just one other thing I'm going to show where I don't know if you remember where the daughter was speaking And she said that her dad came there at like 4 a.m. or 4 in the morning and made them like breakfast and said like, let's go, you're going to school. And her friend, the ex-girlfriend's friend, was staying at the house with them. And she recollects that event of Zachariah coming to the house and what he did. She said it was something that was super creepy, that she was sleeping and she woke up with him being there. So I'll play her testimony. She gets emotional on the stand. A lot of people in the chat were like calling her Karen, and they're like, oh my God, he smiled at you. Oh, the big deal. But like, yeah, let me play it and you'll see what I'm talking about. And I think that'll probably be the last thing that I play tonight. But yeah, it's called He Smiled at Me. So let me just play that real quick.
This trip in March of 2020.
She had asked me if I would be able to possibly help out with the kids for a couple of nights while she was gone.
And what was the plan concerning you watching the children?
Well, they were in daycare at the time. I think the boys were, and I think their daughter, it was COVID, so I don't know where they were during the day, but I was at work. And then I would be there for the kids in the evening for dinner, bedtime, and then get them off to where they needed to be in the morning before I went to work. And it was a Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday I was going to have the kids go with her stepmom and dad.
And what was the plan, to your knowledge, of whether or not the defendant was supposed to be present for any of that?
He was not going to be. He was actually out of state, was my understanding.
So I'm going to direct your attention to the early morning hours of March 5th of 2020. Do you recall something that caused you concern on that morning?
Yeah.
And what was that?
I had fallen asleep in the living room on the couch, and when I had woke up, the lights were off. I think the TV was in sleep mode, and I saw a dark figure at the end of the couch. And then when I don't know if I moved or made a sound or whatnot, but where my feet were, there was.
Judge, I'm going to object on the grounds of relevance and other acts. And if this needs to be argued further, I'd like it to be outside the presence of the jury.
Well, I'm going to, at this point, overrule the objection. Go ahead.
So what happened when you saw the figure at the end of the couch?
Like I said, I don't know if I moved or made a sound, but the lights went on, and the defendant was standing at the end of the couch, just smiling at me and said, "Hey there." And I didn't really even know what to say. And so then he said, "Where the fuck are my kids and their whore mother?" And he went upstairs and woke up the kids.
And do you recall roughly what time of morning this was?
It was about 3:45 in the morning.
And where were you staying that night that the defendant was in the living room?
In Sadie's home.
And to your knowledge, did the defendant live there?
No, he did not.
To your knowledge, was he supposed to be there?
No.
After the defendant went upstairs to wake up the children, what do you recall happening next?
He came back down with the kids and stood there and started asking me. He actually told me that he was surprised I was there because he thought I was be down in Mexico whoring with her when he saw my Jeep in the driveway. And then he asked me again who she was with, and I told him the people who he also knows. And he told me not to lie and that he knows she's fucking somebody whose name starts with an L.
Now, at this point, given your friendship with Miss Beecham, are you aware of anyone in her life at that point whose name or nickname started with an L?
Yeah.
And who is that?
Rosaleo. We actually called him Leo because when she first told me his name, I'm kind of hard of hearing, and so I was like, I didn't understand what she said, so we started made a joke that we would call him Leo, and that's for a while. That's how she referred to him whenever she would speak to me about him.
And prior to this March 5th incident you're talking about, approximately how long before that did you first hear about this Leo?
I want to say maybe late January, early February, she kind of started talking about this guy that she was kind of chatting with, and I don't know for sure if that was when, but I remember like closer to Valentine's Day, she really started to talk more about him than, she had in the weeks prior.
Now back to March 5th of 2020, after I think the defendant said the thing about thinking that you'd be in Mexico. What happened next?
After he came back down with the kids, you mean?
Yes.
I remember I had contacted Sadie and 911 was called. And he was in the kitchen making breakfast and telling them to hurry up and eat because Auntie Becky says, I'm a bad man and the cops are coming.
And was this still roughly around 4 a.m.?
It was around, yeah, I mean, when I looked at the clock, it was about, for the first time that I remember looking, it was about 3:45 in the morning, according to the clock in the living room.
And who had been the one to call 911?
Sadie did.
And why, in your understanding, was that done?
Because I contacted her and I let her
No
know.
object as far as speculation as to why Miss Beecham called 911.
Your Honor, I believe she's saying what she stated to Miss Beecham, which I believe she will then represent is why she believes 911 was called. It's all about her statements to Miss Beecham.
All what?
It's all about her statements to Miss Beecham about the situation. So it's not hearsay because she's going to provide it, and Miss Beecham has testified have been crossed.
Overruled.
So I had contacted her and I just said, what the hell, Zach is here? Like, what is he doing here? And I didn't know what to do. I was terrified. I didn't know why he was there. My understanding, he wasn't supposed to be there. And she proceeded to call 911 because if she hadn't, I told her I would.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 282. Do these appear to be the phone calls you referenced between yourself and Miss Beecham on March 5th of 2020, starting at 3:56 a.m.?
Yes.
And then ultimately culminating with one at 10:43 a.m.?
Yes.
Now, in reference to Miss Beecham's relationship with someone you knew to be named Leo, you had indicated that the ending of the defendant and Miss Beecham's relationship was around Christmas of 2019. Was Leo the first person that you were aware of that Sadie had shown any interest in?
Yeah, he was.
And being her friend of 30 years, were you privy to how that relationship was going starting in February of 2020?
No, don't go in a corner, nor is
Did you ever
grandma.
meet Leo in person?
Unfortunately, I did not with COVID, but I did have an opportunity. He was at her house decorating for their daughter's birthday, and we had like it was Facebook Messenger, like a video call that night. We talked with them for quite a long time and got to know him a little bit. And then a couple times, like if she had been on the phone with him and she was with me, you know, she'd put it on speaker so he could say hello, but I never actually got to meet him face to face, no.
Now, being a friend of Miss Beecham's for this long period of time, did she confide in you about her problems regarding the defendant?
She did.
And what in general do you remember being complaints that she was making in April and May of 2020 regarding the defendant towards her?
She would just, the text messages, constant text messages and emails, showing up in places or just kind of, sometimes he would go radio silent and then out of nowhere, just send her really random messages, just very, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just a lot of instances that she had told me about of weird things happening. And then him kind of confirming it to her when she would call him out on it.
And at any point in April and May of 2020, did Miss Beecham indicate to you any interest in rekindling her relationship with the defendant?
No.
And how would you describe the trajectory of Miss Beecham's relationship with Leo during those same months? Were they still seeing each other? How was that going?
They were still talking. She seemed very happy, excited.
Okay, so I think that's everything that I'm going to show right now. Because like I said, the prosecution or the state just ended their case, and now the defense is going to cross-examine everyone. And I think that's going to be interesting to see what they bring to it, because they, I think, are stronger than the state. So I'm really curious because I don't think that they do have a lot of like evidence that is very suspicious, and he probably did do it. I mean, I don't know for sure. Obviously, I don't know. None of us know. But I don't think they have enough evidence to prove that he did do it. So if I was a juror at this point, I mean, I don't think that I would be able to give that guilty verdict just on what I've seen so far. So that's why I'm really interested to see what they're going to do the next couple days in court. But I don't know. How are you guys all thinking in chat? Lex, this was from 6 days ago. I don't know exactly what day it was in court. I think it might have been like day 9, maybe. I'll have to look. What did you say? Val, weird and sus. Am I wrong? Who are you talking about? That the friend? Nora's grandma, what are you doing? Are you causing more trouble? K-Braze. Oh, thank you. Yes, and also, so there's Aiden Fucci's sentencing trial at 5:50 tomorrow. So I'm wondering if I should stream that if I'm awake in like in a few hours. I'm not sure if they're gonna actually sentence him tomorrow or not, but I want to be streaming that if they are, but I don't know if they're going to come back with the sentence tomorrow or not. So I don't know. If I'm awake, I'll do it. I'll see if I'm up or not. But will you guys be awake in a few hours? If you guys are awake in a few hours, I'll set my alarm. But let me say bye to everyone. And also I want to know, so yeah, what is everybody thinking about the evidence that was shown and with the daughter and with Sadie and the friend and the stuff in the van and the burn pit and the farm and everything, and just everything that Max Smith was saying was really interesting as well. But let me see everyone in chat what you guys are saying. Nora's grandma says, geez, the defense could rest now. They haven't proven the case at all. The DNA in his van is kind of telling. Yeah, I mean, that I don't know how you really can explain that. Oh, Ava, you too. Stay safe. She says, love you all. Stay safe. Not enough for me, K-Bray says. You're drooling on your pillow. I'll hopefully be doing that soon. All right. Well, everyone, and Lex Luthor, are you waking up every morning to watch it, Lex, or are you just catching like the replays? And let me see who all that we have still here. I know we have NorCal Jim. Jim, thank you for being here. Edward, thank you for being here. Shay, I know you went to sleep, but thank you for being here. Avery, of course. Nora's grandma, of course. Misfit, of course. Thank you as always, and thank you for gifting memberships. That was so kind of you. Let me see. Austin, I know, is here. Angie, Ava, I know I'm saying names again, but okay, Dave. I know that I'm trying to scroll up to see who else was here, is not anymore. I know Clumsy Clairvoyance was here. Scrolling. Elisa was here. I think I got everybody. If I don't have you, you can be like, I'm here. Say my name. Dave. All right. I think I have everyone, but I hope that you all have a good night. And I still am going to do my crazy women obsession thing. So, like I said, I didn't want to do that first, though, because I need to catch up more with this case. But I'm still definitely I'm going to do whether it's Melissa, Courtney, or Shayna. I need to do one of those for sure, because those are all crazy cases and crazy women. And then maybe Aiden Fucci tomorrow morning, possibly. And then definitely the suitcase, Sarah Boone, crazy one as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but interesting. I'll be interested to see how this plays out. So I hope that you all have a good night. Misfit, cannot wait for that. Yes. And you've been watching live. All right. Well, everybody have a good night. Good night, Nora's grandma. See you all soon. Sleep well.